The ability to be optimistic is one of the most important skills that you can develop. It's so crucial when you're working on a goal or trying to accomplish a big task. But here's the thing, being optimistic is often confused with being positive. See, being optimistic means I believe if I take certain steps, if I conduct myself in the appropriate way, if I move towards a certain action, then I will achieve the outcome I'm hoping to achieve. Whereas being positive is just about your mood. It's just like, I'm going to be in a good mood. But being in a good mood does not guarantee that you're going to accomplish the goal you want to accomplish. You have to maintain a stance of optimism, but you have to protect it. See, being optimistic in this world, as you're working on challenges, as you're working on tasks, as you're trying to accomplish big things, is really, really hard because oftentimes we experience setbacks, and setbacks challenge our ability to be optimistic. I'm going to give you an example. When I was in graduate school, I had a professor that was really, really hard. And this was the professor that was like, she wants you to read everything. And the exams we had were like lengthy essays that took forever. And this is before you were typing everything. So, like, hand writing out the answers, like, hurt your hand. Those of you of a certain age know what I'm talking about. So, her name was Dr. Hensley, and I love and adore Dr. Hensley. I respect Dr. Hensley because she challenged me. I respect Dr. Hensley because she tested my optimism. I respect Dr. Hensley because she made me work. And I'll never forget that first test. I walked into the class, she handed out that first exam, and I did my very best. It was kind of exam where you got 3 hours to take it, and you took every nanosecond of that 3 hours because it was such a hard exam and it took so long to answer each and every question. And I turned in my exam super nervous. Me and about 40 people in that class turned in our exams. We come back the next week and almost all of us had failed. And in graduate school, failing is getting anything below a B. And I got a C. I got a 76 on that exam. I'll never forget seeing that 76. And now these are people in graduate school, these are like honor students as undergrads. These are people who got A's and B's their entire lives. So seeing a C or below was shocking. And so I got a 76, and it was really a bummer for me because I'd studied hard for that exam. I thought I was prepared for that exam, and here I am with a C. Now, remember, there were 40 people. In fact, there were 44 people in that class. So many people dropped the class after that first exam that the next week there were 9. And I went into Dr. Hensley's office and I said, Dr. Hensley, how do I need to prepare for your exams in a way that would allow me to get something higher than a 76? And she gave me an answer. She basically said, when I ask you a question on the exam, tell me everything about everything. I said, okay, so you want to know everything about everything. When she asks you a question on an exam, tell her everything you know about that subject matter. Don't leave anything out. I said, got it. The next test, I got a 78. Still disappointing, but there was something about knowing that if I can get through this challenge, I would be worthy of a graduate degree. There was something about knowing that everybody else was dropping the class. Like I said, the class went from 44, and on the last day of the class, there were 9 of us who had made it through. I said, if I can get through this, I can make it. So I studied even harder and I worked even harder. I remember I got to tell her everything about everything. And I later got a B on the third exam and then an A on the final. And I had made it through this class with a B, with a solid B. And I came out of that knowing that I could do anything. The lesson that I learned was the most key ingredient towards success is hard work. The most key ingredient towards being optimistic is hard work. And that's the thing that I could control. So when a lot of people in my class, after class, they would go drinking. At the time, a poker game called Texas Hold'em was really popular. And people would say, Elliott, want to go play Texas Hold'em? And I was like, no, I'm on a mission. No, I can't go play Texas Hold'em. No, I'm not going to go meet with you at happy hour. After work, I'm going to go home. I'm going to eat something, maybe take a bit of a nap. And then I'm going to wake up and I'm going to study for this class. I'm going to study for the next exam. I'm going to work hard because working hard is totally in your control. There are lots of things that we can't control as we're trying to accomplish our goals. There are lots of things that we cannot control as we're trying to do really hard things in our lives. But the most important variable to success is hard work. And the good news is your work ethic is 100% in your control. How hard you work towards something is 100% up to you. It's how willing are you to dedicate your entire being to that thing, because that is what's going to allow you to protect your optimism as you're working towards accomplishing something. So I want you to sit back and think, as you were working towards something or going through something difficult, what did you notice about yourself or your circumstance that let you know that you could get through it and were going to be okay?
What's up, everyone? This is Elliott, Connie, and for over 15 years, I've helped thousands of counselors support their clients in finding solutions in their everyday lives. And welcome back to Aha Moments, where every day I share lessons I've learned in my work and life to inspire you to live your very, very best life. And today, I'm going to be talking to you about optimism, the power and importance of being optimistic as you go through your daily life. Now, listen, I'm going to say something that I think might surprise you. Oftentimes, people think that a counselor's job is to solve a person's problem. Oftentimes, people think that a counselor's job is to teach the client how to live a life without the problem. But what I've come to realize is more often than not, our job is to increase optimism in our clients' lives. So let me explain what I mean when I say that. So optimism is defined by having hopefulness and confidence about the future, right? That's what optimism means, having hopefulness and confidence about the future. So I'll tell you about a teenager. I'll give you an example. I saw this teenage girl, however many eons ago, this young teenage girl. She was getting into a lot of trouble at school. And the mom had some very serious concerns about this girl's choices and the way that these choices would impact her future and the life that the mom wanted for her daughter. And think about that. Like when our children behave poorly, misbehave, make bad choices, don't do well in school, hang out with the wrong crowd, all those things, it decreases our optimism for them and their future and causes us to worry and in some cases panic and in some cases freak out. So this mom brought her daughter to therapy. Now, in the therapy, we talked about how the daughter could make different choices, and I met with the daughter and I met with the mom and talked about some parenting things, all that. And then in the second session, the daughter came to the therapy wearing her karate gi. The young girl was in karate. She came into therapy wearing her karate gi. And in the first session, somehow I never learned this. I didn't know that this young girl, probably about 14, was in karate. So I asked, how long have you been doing this? And she said, 7 years, I think. So she started when she was like 8. And I said, wow, and what rank have you achieved? And she told me she's a second-degree black belt at the age of 14. Now, once I learned that, then I was really impressed. Like, on one hand, she makes really bad choices. Her grades aren't great, not hanging out with the best crowd in school. But on the other hand, she's a second-degree black belt. So I bring the mom and the daughter into my office, and we have a conversation about what skills this daughter has that's allowed her to be a second-degree black belt. And she talked about being disciplined, and she talked about making good choices, and she talked about having long-term goals. All of the things that if this young lady were to apply these things in school or in life, it would change the way she conducted her daily life. So I made a suggestion to her, like, treat life, in essence, as the same way you treated your karate, and let's see what happened. A couple weeks later, this family comes back to therapy and their lives are completely transformed. This young girl is making better choices. Mom and daughter are getting along and all these things. But what happened, more so than the problem being solved, what happened was the mom learned to see her daughter in a new way and increased optimism for her daughter's future. And it transformed their relationship. Being optimistic that if I live my life a certain way, I can have hope that things will work out well for me is a game-changing way to live life. But here's the thing. The world we currently live in will often try to steal your optimism, will often try to steal your hope. When I started off my career, I told people what my goals were. I tell people I want to have a successful private practice, or I want to write a book, or I want to do this, or I want to do that. And people try to steal my optimism by telling me how hard it was. They'd say, Elliott, it's really, really hard, that thing you want to do. Elliott, it's really, really challenging, that thing you want to do. Elliott, you may not succeed. And people do that because they think they're being caring and loving. People do that because they think they're protecting you from disappointment. But what they're actually doing is stealing your optimism. And that's the worst thing you can allow to be stolen. So I want you to please hang on to your optimism. And I want you to think about your life and think about one thing in your life that you're super wanting to accomplish. One thing in your life that you really want to achieve. And I want you to think and become optimistic about your ability to achieve that thing. So thanks for being here today. If you wouldn't mind doing me a really quick favor, I'd love it if you'd share this podcast with one person in your life that could benefit from hearing this today. Like one person that could benefit from hearing this idea today. One person who could benefit from having more optimism in their life. And don't forget to subscribe on Apple Podcasts or anywhere that podcasts are listened to. I'll see you tomorrow. What's up, everyone? This is Elliott, Connie. For over 15 years, I've helped thousands of counselors support their clients in finding solutions in their everyday lives. And I want to welcome you back to Aha Moments, where every day I share lessons I've learned in my work and in my life to help you step back and refresh your perspective so you can live your best life every day. Now, today I'm going to continue talking about optimism. And I want to share a story with you about a very famous man, a guy by the name of Will Smith. Now, a lot of people these days know of Will Smith as a very popular and very successful movie actor. He was a TV actor on a very popular show called Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. But what some people may not know because they're not of a certain age or may have forgotten that Will Smith started his career as a rapper. And as a rapper, he was known as the Fresh Prince. And Will Smith, while he was rapping as the Fresh Prince, he had a hit song. This was like his breakout song that made him a household name, that made him incredibly successful. And that song was called Parents Just Don't Understand. It's kind of a comical song. It's kind of a funny song. I remember it from my childhood being one of the most played songs on the radio. It was a really, really funny, popular song. You can go see the video on YouTube. But anyway, the reason I'm talking to you about it now is because this song made Will Smith a millionaire. And when Will Smith got millions of dollars, he was about 18 years old, and he bought a bunch of cars, and he bought a bunch of houses, he bought a bunch of things, and his dad was trying to get him to stop. He said, "Son, why do you need so many cars? You only have one butt." And Will Smith very quickly went through all of his money and was broke. Went through all of his money and literally was broke. Even though he was a successful rapper, he was a successful entertainer, he had no money and was completely broke. And he sat down and he wanted to get back on top. He wanted to kind of rebuild his financial situation. He wanted to make more money and rebuild his success. And he talked about having ideas about going to Hollywood and acting. He talked about making more music. And this one guy was interviewing him and said, "How did you know you could recover?" And Will Smith paused for a second and he said, "Because if I can make $1 million once, I can do it again." And I remember watching that and just thinking, this is a man who has a mastery of his mind. This is a man who has mastery of optimism. This is such an important skill. Now, of course, Will Smith has gone on to be one of the most successful TV actors, one of the most highly paid movie actors, and I'm sure will live the rest of his life without going broke. But it started because when he lost all his money the first time, he didn't quit, he didn't give up, he didn't kind of recoil into his hole. He got back on the grind and took his optimistic mindset and applied it to life. And that's how you win. That's how you succeed. Optimism is a very, very hard thing to cultivate. But once you master this ability to be optimistic, your entire life circumstances can change. Like, imagine that. Just thinking to yourself, if I got it once, I can get it again. See, most people don't think like that. They're so wrapped up in the challenge and in the struggle and the negativity and the problem of how they lost that opportunity and how they lost that amount of money. But Will Smith was able to regather himself. He was able to retune himself, and he was able to give it another go and go be successful. And oftentimes the second attempt, as in this case, makes you more successful than the first attempt. So that's the power of being optimistic, is being able to maintain hope towards something you're trying to achieve. Being able to maintain the likelihood that the outcome will be successful if I just keep working, if I just keep grinding. Being able to believe in yourself And sometimes you have to find an excuse to continue to believe in yourself. Sometimes you have to find the data that supports your optimism. For example, it's really easy to beat yourself up. And it's really true to think, wow, if I did it once, I can do it again. So you know what? I want you guys to watch as you go through your life and you're, watching television, watching movies, listening to music. Think about how optimistic the people that you're listening to and being entertained by had to be to get to the success where they are today. Hey, thanks for being here today. And if you don't mind, please do me a really huge favor. I want to reach as many people as possible, and I can't do this without your help. I'd love it if you can share this podcast with at least one person in your life that could benefit from hearing this message on this day. Someone that might be struggling could really use a bit of a boost. And don't forget to subscribe to my podcast on Apple Podcasts or anywhere else you can listen to podcasts. I'll see you tomorrow. What's up, everyone? This is Elliott, Connie, and for over 15 years, I've helped thousands of counselors support their clients in finding solutions for their everyday lives, and I've worked with thousands of clients myself. And I want to welcome you back to Aha Moments, where every day I share lessons I've learned in my work and in my life to help you step back and refresh your perspective so you can live your very best life every day. And today I want to continue to talk about optimism, and I want to talk about one of my very best friends. His name is Matthew. Now, I've known Matthew since we were about 19 years old and we met in college. And Matthew is one of the strongest but also most sensitive people that I've ever met. And I watched Matthew go through something really challenging and come out on the other side so much more successful than any of us could ever dream. In fact, he came out on the other side even more successful than he was before the hard thing happened. So when we were in undergrad, we were both majoring in psychology. We didn't really know what we wanted to do with our psychology degrees, but we knew we wanted to help people. And Matthew loves children. So Matthew's biggest dream was to help children. So we decided to go to grad school together, and Matthew focused on becoming a clinician working with children, and I focused on becoming a clinician doing something called solution-focused brief therapy. It was really amazing to go to grad school with your best friend. It made the experience so much easier, made the experience so much more fun, and it was cool. And we started seeing clients, and then something tragic happened where Matthew was working with a family, and one of the members of the family took their lives, and it devastated him. Like, it really devastated Matthew. And he got a response from the clinical team that was supposed to be supporting him that really made the situation worse. And before I knew it, Matthew didn't want to work with clients anymore. That kind of spark for working with clients was gone. His desire to help people and his love for children wasn't changed, but his spark for doing that clinically was gone. And Matthew took a job in administration and stopped seeing clients. There was something different about Matthew during that time in his life. There was just a little bit of that glow that everybody who's come to know Matthew had gotten used to was gone. And how many of you guys out there have ever struggled to maintain your glow? How many of you guys out there had a moment happen where just life was a little bit hard to be shining through? And that was what this period of life was like for Matthew. And then one day he called me and he said, man, I met this person, I met this girl, and she's in law school. She's going to law school. It just got me thinking, maybe I'll go to law school. And Matthew's also brilliant, by the way. And so he did. He went to law school. Like I said, I've known this guy for a really long time, and never did he ever mention ever wanting to become an attorney. But here he is saying he's going to go to law school, and he did. He went to law school, got a law degree, passed the bar on his first attempt to pass the bar, and becomes an attorney. And these days, Matthew is the assistant district attorney here in one of the local counties. And Matthew prosecutes what they call the special victims unit. Matthew prosecutes people who take advantage of and commit violence or sexual crimes against children. And I was talking to Matthew the other day and realizing that, man, he's fulfilled his dream of helping children, just in a way that looks different than how it looks before. And Matthew, even though he went through something really challenging, even though he went through something really hard with losing that client in the family he was working with, he somehow maintained his optimism that if I can find a pathway forward, I'll still be able to help children. I learned a lesson watching Matthew. Like, it's really awesome when you have friends that can inspire you. It's really awesome when you have friends that you look up to. And Matthew is both a friend that I look up to and a friend that inspires me. And it reminded me that when you go through difficult times, if you can continue to be optimistic that you can get through it, and on the other side of it, you can still have your dream, and oftentimes, have your dream in even a bigger, more beautiful way. When you talk to Matthew these days, the enthusiasm and the spark and the charisma that has always been a part of him is back. It is back bigger and brighter than I'd ever seen it before. And I hope all of you can learn a lesson as I have from Matthew. I hope all of you can be inspired in a way that I have from Matthew. And I want to invite all of you to look around your lives and think about the optimism that plays a role in the people around you, and find those people in your life that you can look up to and then inspire you as well. Hey, thanks for listening to today's episode. If you don't mind, I really want to reach as many people as possible, so do me a huge favor, and I'd love it if you could share this podcast with at least one person in your life that could benefit from hearing Matthew's story. And don't forget to subscribe on Apple Podcasts or anywhere else you can listen to podcasts, and I'll see you tomorrow. What's up, everyone? This is Elliott, Connie. For over 15 years, I've helped thousands of counselors support their clients, and I've worked with thousands of clients myself to find solutions in their everyday lives. And I want to welcome you back to the aha moments, where every day I share lessons I've learned in my work and in my life to help you step back and refresh your perspective so you can live your very best life every day. Today, I'm going to talk about how being optimistic will help you overcome challenges in the future, and how to hold on to that optimism, and how to cultivate that optimism, and how to use optimism to transform your life in the most positive ways. So I want to tell you about this guy named Michael White. Michael White is kind of like a superhero in the field of psychotherapy. He created something called narrative family therapy, and he passed away several years ago. I think it was 2010-ish. The last lecture he gave was here in Texas at a conference where I was attending. And I'll never forget Michael White, this world-renowned psychotherapist. Like, he's written all kinds of books and traveled the world with this unbelievable reputation. Like, Michael White is a super big deal in the field of psychotherapy. And he's talking about narrative therapy and how to use narrative therapy at this conference. And at the end of his lecture, he goes to take questions. And someone in the audience asked him, how do you help clients overcome challenges in their future? And Michael White paused for a minute and he said, sometimes it's not about focusing on the future problem. Sometimes it's about looking in your rearview mirror and looking at all of the boulders you've overcome on the way to get to where you are now on the road of life. No one has gotten to where they are now without overcoming boulders on the road of life. And part of helping people be optimistic and go forward and create a life that they want to live in is recognizing that they have overcome all of the challenges that have come before them. And I remember that. I remember hearing him say that. And I remember thinking, man, that's so true. Because all of us today are undefeated against our most troubling moments. All of us are undefeated against our most difficult days. All of us have overcome every single thing that we have been challenged with to this point. And part of the trick to being optimistic is viewing yourself as undefeated. Part of the key to being successful and handling challenges in the future and moving forward towards a future that is really amazing and that has your biggest desires in it and has your biggest wishes in it, part of the key is looking at yourself as a monster, looking at yourself as someone who has totally overcome every challenge that has ever been posed to you. Did you get nicked up? Of course you did. Do you have some bruises and some scars? Of course you do, because it was one heck of a fight. But you're still in it, and you've made it through, and you've accomplished so much more than you give yourself credit for. You know, one of the things I've noticed in my practice as a psychotherapist is people are significantly more likely to give themselves blame for the problems in their life than they are to give themselves credit for the success in their life. But that's actually where optimism lives. Because if you can give yourself credit for the success that you've achieved, then it's really easy to start assuming that you're going to accomplish more success.
It's really easy to start assuming that you're going to start doing better and doing more and accomplishing more and moving forward. It's really easy to think when the next curveball life throws at you that you'll be able to handle it and manage it. The strongest people in life are not the people that have the least amount of problems. In fact, they're often the people that have had the most problems, but they're the ones who can look at the way they've handled those problems and view them through the lens of success. So never forget that you are responsible for your successes. You get the credit for your successes, and even overcoming difficult days is a success, and you need to pat yourself on the back for the way that you have gone through hard moments, the way you've gotten through hard times, where you've overcome significant challenges, and recognize that you have greatness within you, and that greatness has been part of you the whole time. You just haven't been attending to it. So I want you to look through the lens of optimism and just look at the things in your life that you're looking forward to most. I want you to look at your life for the things that you're really looking forward to, things you're excited about. And I think that's going to really set us up as we go forward in this journey together. So thanks for being here today. If you wouldn't mind, I need you to do me a huge favor. I want to reach as many people as possible, and I'd love it if you'd share this podcast with at least one person that needs to hear this message about optimism and that needs to discover that they're undefeated as well. They need to hear this. People need to think positively of themselves, and I want to reach more people. So if you could share this with at least one person, that would be amazing. And don't forget to subscribe on Apple Podcasts or anywhere you listen to podcasts, and share it with your friends.